Hi, it's Skip from Skip's Messy Workbench, and this video is going to be a combination video slideshow, and it's for the 32 Ford Appreciation Build sponsored by Kim's Custom Garage. And I took my build, which is shown right here, and I superimposed it over this kind of cool looking old garage. Anyway, this project, this build, even though I think it looks pretty good on this picture, I had a ton of disasters. I had painting disasters. I had dropsy type parts where parts dropped and broke apart. I had one disaster after the other. And if it wouldn't have been that this was an appreciation build and I really wanted to present this, I probably would have shelved it. That's how it was getting frustrating to me. Anyway, I did finish it. It is nowhere near perfect. Some of the close-ups that you'll see in this video, both the video and the slideshows, you'll see some of the flaws that are left over from the recovery of the disasters that have occurred. So that said, let's get started, and I'll show you what happened, and I'll list and show you some of the disasters that occurred. Okay, so hang in there. We'll be right back. Hi, it's Skip from Skip's Messy Workbench, and this is the 32 Ford 3-window coupe that I built for the appreciation build sponsored by Kim's Custom Garage. After disaster after disaster that I had with this build, it actually didn't turn out as bad as I expected it to turn out. So this is the build, and it actually turned out pretty good for some of the disasters that I've had with it. So some of the things that I did that were different was the wheels that came with the kit. I really did not like, and I wanted to use a different wheel, but in order to do that, I was going to have to really destroy the wheel. It was going to be impossible. So I found these wheels, and actually I think they turned out just fine. I liked the design on it. I think it worked out really, really well. I also wanted to try this color scheme that I used, and what it is Tamiya gloss black on the tops and on the fenders, and this is Tamiya metallic blue for the sides. I don't know why that color scheme just kind of stuck in my head. That's what I wanted to do. And then I used some Tamiya rubber black for the running boards. So it, again, for the problems that I had with this and some of the disasters, I thought it turned out fairly well. Now there are some marks on it, which I'm not sure you could see in this video because of the disasters, and I did lose one of the door handles. Last minute, it just flew out of my tweezers, and I looked for it and I looked for it, and my bench isn't actually messy. It's just a little bit disorganized, It may still be laying on top of the bench someplace. If I find it out, I will put it on. I also was experimenting with where I wanted the tail lights. Did I want to put them on the bottom of the trunk lid, because I've seen some 32s with them there, or did I want to do them fender mount? And as I experimented with that, I decided, you know what, I want them to be fender mount. I just think they look good as the fender mount. I also found a 1932 Pennsylvania license plate, and I live in Pennsylvania, so you know, I thought that would be ideal. And let me see how far I can zoom in on this before I lose focus. Whoop, there, we lost focus. There we go. So you could see that this is 1932. It's from Pennsylvania, and I guess there weren't a lot of cars back then. It's 21F. So I was pleased that I found that. So other than the disasters that I did have with this build, I'm somewhat happy with it. Let me see if I can get into the interior with this. If I can't with the video camera, I have some stills, and I'm going to show a few slideshows of that. It doesn't look like I'm going to be able to really get in there with the video camera to take a look at that interior, but you could see it a little bit here. Again, I have some stills that I'll show toward the end of this video, but you can see I did the wheel in almost like a wood color, even though it's not a wood grain type wheel. The spokes we did in silver, and the horn in a black. I did the seats, and again on the slideshow you'll see that the seats I did in like a saddle color. It was really like a tan color, and it was to me a color, if I can get the name of it here, excuse me, it was to me a desert yellow. No, it wasn't desert yellow, duh. It was flat earth is what it was. So I did that in flat earth. So, you know, again, I had disaster after disaster. But I'm happy with the way it turned out. Even though it was a frustrating build, to say the least. If I pop the hood off here, you can see the engine in here. I did wire it. And I used a distributor that was not pre-wired, and I came from Detail Master, so I had to add all the wiring to it, and I put boots on just like here. Now the coil, I wanted to keep my firewall clean, so I mounted the coil back inside here, and that coil was also third market from Detail Master, and then I wired the coil portion of the distributor down to that. And then for the radiator hoses, I used just some wire insulation and painted it with the Tamiya rubber black. So that worked out really well. I was happy with that. All in all, I mean, I'm happy with the build. It was a frustrating build because of all of the disasters that I had. And like I said, I will show a brief slideshow at the end of this video with some shots of this car, but also with some of the disasters that came about, and I'll narrate that. So hey, thanks for watching so far. Keep watching so that you can see exactly what was happening with this build since I started it. So again, thanks for watching, and hang in there. I'll be right back with a slideshow. Hi, and thanks for joining me back for this slideshow presentation. This slideshow presentation, at least part of it, is basically some of the disasters I had and some of the recovery from that. I'll try to keep it short so that you don't fall asleep during this, unless of course you're suffering from insomnia and you would like to get some sleep. Just keep watching. No, seriously though, I did have some major disasters with this build, and because I'm back in the hobby after a long time, I'm learning. So I learned a lot from what happened to me during this process. Anyway, one of the first things that happened was I had painting issues, and one of them was that I learned now that I left the masking tape on too long. Now, I have never masked painted anything. I mean, when I was modeling as a kid, who did that? You just got a brush and some paint and you paint it. But anyway, so it was my first attempt at doing some masking. And when I pulled the tape off, I had some issues. A very nice fella that commented to me on my Facebook, not on my Facebook, I'm sorry, my YouTube channel, that you should peel the tape off as soon as possible, because what I had was, and I don't know that you can see it on this, but I have some tape residue showing on this metallic blue. I thought maybe I could get rid of it, and I did attempt to get rid of it. I probably could have with some work, but I had other issues besides that. If you look at the other side, I have tape residue over here. I have some fuzz. Now that fuzz could have easily came off. I had some bleed through on the tape, which really is easy to fix. I mean, I could have definitely done a fix on that somewhat easy, just with a little touch up. But the major problem was, and you can see some of it here on this roof, I had some major orange peeling. And I've had orange peel before, but never like this. Now, it may not look so bad on the roof, but when you look at the trunk, I have some major orange peeling going on, as you can see. So what do I do to fix this? I didn't want to have to start over again. So what I did was I took some 3000 grit sandpaper and a wet dry paper, and I started to wet sand all the orange peel, which was most of the black. And I noticed that the orange peeling was starting to get removed. So I kept doing it. I didn't want to burn through to the primer, but I got rid of the bulk of the orange peel. What I did then was I took some number 2 Novus scratch remover, and I started to buff the sanded areas. And it started to look really good. The orange peeling was gone. So, I kept on working at it, and I thought, I bet you I can make it even better if I use a buffing wheel. So I got my Dremel tool, and I put a buffing, one of those little buffing wheels on it, and I used a little bit of Novus number 2 on the buffing wheel, and I started buffing. And I started on the roof with the buffing wheel, and man, it was really looking good. And then the disaster happened. The Dremel tool slipped the chuck hit the top of the roof, and I left an enormous scratch across the top of the roof. There was going to be no recovery from that. So I knew that if I was going to continue this project, I was going to have to strip this paint off and do it again. So I did some research on how to strip the Tamiya acrylic paint, and I found that people were getting good experiences or good results with using isopropyl alcohol. I had thought about using, I think, what they call the purple pond, and I even went to the auto parts store and bought some of that degreaser, that purple degreaser. I didn't use it. I decided to also stop at the drugstore and get a couple of bottles of the 91% isopropyl alcohol, IPA. And I got a container to fit the body. I filled it with the IPA. And man, I got to tell you, within 15 minutes, the paint was lifted right off of the body. I took it out of the IPA bath, and I just with a toothbrush, I brushed off some of the little globby stuff, and the body was right back to the original plastic again. That I felt so happy. I didn't take any pictures of it because at the time I was really frustrated, but I was really, really happy. So now that I had it down to the bare plastic, and it looked almost like when it came out of the box, I prepped the body again. I did a light sanding on it. I put another coat of primer, and I used a white primer on it. So I put another layer of primer on. In fact, I put two coats of primer on it this time, and I masked off the black areas, or what was going to be black, and I did the metallic blue. After the metallic blue cleared or dried, which I give about 2 days. I don't have a dryer, so I found that this Tamiya acrylic paint, it takes at least 2 days to really harden to the point where you can start working with it somewhat. So I waited the 2 days, and I had the tape off of it already, naturally. So after that 2 days, I taped off the blue area, the metallic blues, and I spray painted the black areas on the top. And again, I waited. I cleaned my airbrush, and I did a few other little things. And when I pulled the tape off after doing the black, I had another disaster. As you can see, I had major bleed through on this tape. I don't get it. That tape was the Tamiya masking tape, and I had it all pressed down flat. There were no wrinkles in it. I used a Q-tip and the one of the larger toothpicks, and I made sure everything was pressed down really tight. So I don't understand how that happened. My heart went up in my throat. I was devastated. You know, it's like, do I have to start all over again? Especially since the black turned out really well. You know, because I'm still learning, I figure, you know what, I got to try to recover from this without putting it back into an IPA bath. So what I did was I figured I've got nothing to lose. I'm just gonna experiment. So I took a 5mm wide brush, and I took some of the Tamiya paint thinner and put it in a small cup, and I took some of the metallic blue into another small cup, and I dipped the brush into the thinner, and then got it just so that the brush was damp with thinner. And then I used a little bit of the metallic blue, and I started brushing over down at this bottom piece where it's like really heavy. And as I brushed on, I noticed that the black was starting to pick up. My thought was, I'm going to brush the blue on, And then once I got it to the point where there wasn't a lot of black in there, I would try to buff it out and see whether that worked. Well, so far it looked like it was going to be pretty good. So I continued. I cleaned the brush, I dampen it with the thinner, and then I dip a little bit into the metallic blue, and I kept working at all these spots, and it lifted that black off the surface. Now there was some black blended in with the blue. Naturally, it didn't take it all in, but wow, it wasn't anywhere near, as bad as I thought it was going to be. After I had all that done, I wet sanded all the blue again, and then I taped off the black areas, and I sprayed it, I airbrushed it with 2 coats of the metallic blue, and the results were right here. I thought this came out really, really well. You can see I've got a little mark here, and right here I've got a little bit of a mark, but I was so happy. I didn't care. I didn't care about it anymore. I accomplished really what I wanted to accomplish with this recovery. I also had this in this image. I have the inside painted white already. Now you see some shadows in here. Those are just shadows. This whole roof and is pure white. Also, there was something about the instruction sheets with this particular Revell model, in that the instruction sheets itself did not reference a rear view mirror, but I had seen one on the Chrome Tree, and when I was looking at pictures of 32 Fords, they had rear view mirrors in them. So I looked and I took the mirror off the Chrome Tree, and then I saw where it should be attached to the windshield frame, because the windshield frame and the windshield are in this photo already, and I attached the rear view mirror. The other problem with the instructions is that it shows you how to put these fender wells inside of the rear fender openings, and so I did that. I put them in, and it didn't really tell you that you don't need those when you're doing the fender version, and duh, I should have realized that, but no, I didn't. So I mounted them in there. But that's when another disaster happened, because I didn't have the interior tub in the body when I put those rear wheel covers in. And so when I went to put the interior tub in, it wouldn't fit. So I pulled apart the body. I just bent the body out a little bit, and it did. The interior tub snapped in. However, I broke the side, not broke it, but the glue bond on the side, because this interior tub has 2 sides which are, which have to be glued in place. One of them broke free. The saving grace is that because it was already in the body, you didn't notice it. The body actually held it in place. So although it was a break, and again, not a break, but a glue bond break, it would have been okay. I then took these fender wells things out of the model. They came right out. It wasn't bad at all. So that wasn't too bad. The next thing I started doing was I figured, I've got a little bit of work to do on the bottom. So I already had everything mounted like this. I just wanted to do some touch up on the flat black, and I wanted to do a little touch up on some of the silver and chrome parts down in here. The tires and wheels are on, but they're not glued on. They're not glued on because when I used a different wheel, they go on very nicely, but in the end I was going to have to glue them on. At this point they're not glued on. But I had another disaster. I was holding the chassis just as it is. Thank goodness the body wasn't on it. And old Dropsy, I dropped it. And it hit my concrete floor in my shop. Again, my heart just went up into my throat. I looked down on the floor and both fender rails had come off. One of the back bumper supports came off. One of the front bumper supports came off along with the bumper. Naturally, the tires and wheels flew off because they weren't glued on. One of the brake rotors came off. The engine broke free of the engine mounts. The exhaust pipe separated from the headers, the exhaust headers. The drive shaft got pulled out of the back end of the transmission housing. It was unbelievable. The saving grace to this was that nothing actually broke. It was just the glue bonds that snapped. So I gathered up all the parts. Thank goodness I was able to find them. I guess the Bermuda Triangle under my bench was closed up at the time. So I found all the parts and I reassembled everything and got everything back together again. And I recovered from that little disaster. So after recovering from that disaster, I was feeling pretty good. And I went to put the body on to the top of the frame. And while I was putting the body on the frame, and I really wasn't planning to glue it on because I wanted to be able to take it on and off. But anyway, as I was putting the body on the frame, I got the dropsies again and I dropped the body. Fortunately, it did not hit the floor, it just hit my workbench. And it dropped probably about a foot, which shouldn't have been too bad. However, the interior tub came popping out of the body, and this side piece popped off. The steering wheel and column popped out. Naturally, this side of the dash was free. Again, fortunately, nothing physically broke. It was just the glue bonds. And at this point in time, I was using a combination of Gorilla Glue and Loctite because of the painted surfaces. And I'm thinking to myself, this isn't working out well because these glue bonds aren't really holding. So again, I was fortunate nothing was broke. So I reassembled everything again. As you can see, the tub is together again. I did a backwash on the instrument panels. I did the dashboard in the metallic blue. This gray is the Tamiya Sky Gray, and the brown is the Tamiya Flat Earth. So I did the armrests and the pull strap in that color. And I thought, other than that disaster, the tub came out just fine. So I finally got everything back together. Body's installed, everything's up. And take a look at the engine here. I used just some wire insulation for the radiator hoses. You see the top one here, the bottom one's down here up. I think there's another view of that. And just painted the wire insulation with the Tamiya rubber black. I got a I got a unwired Detail Master distributor, and I had to add the wiring to this. Also, I wanted to put a ignition coil on it, and So I also got an ignition coil from Detail Master. I wanted to keep the firewall clean, so I mounted the ignition coil right back here behind the engine and then ran the spark plug wire, or the coil wire, down from the distributor. This is eventually draped down further so that it matches up with these plugs. So that's photo was taken before I had that fully dressed. Looking at the other side, you can see the distributor put boots on each side, used red boots on this side. I did some white with a little bit of a black or a brown wash on the air cleaner just to show a little bit of use on it. I did a Fram oil filter, that's because they're orange. And here you can see the lower radiator hose. This is just another shot of the engine so you can see the hoses and some more of the wiring. That's a duplicate image. And here's the finished deal. Here's the finished model. You can still see some things on the fender a little bit from when it fell, from other things. I mean, I didn't patch everything up because it was looking okay. So another view of the car. Again, I thought for the disasters that I had with this vehicle, it turned out just fine. Here's another shot of it. And there's that previous shot, but I enhanced it a little bit, maybe a little too much. And here's that same image parked outside of a garage. And again, a side shot of it. And a rear shot. Back shot. I found a 1932 Pennsylvania license plate, which I'm so glad I found that. And I just printed that and then I glued it in place on the license plate, on the license frame holder. And another shot. Another shot with the hood off. Here we're backed into the gas pump so we can get some gas. And this ends the slideshow presentation. So, hey, thanks for hanging out with me. Thanks for going through this. And if you like what you saw in this video, if you like the video, give me a thumbs up, please. If you didn't like it, give me a thumbs down. I think they both work as far as YouTube stuff goes. I have a very, very small channel, and I'm not interested in making it grow tremendously large, but I do like to share my experiences. So if you liked it, thumbs up. Click the subscribe button if you like, and also the bell so that you get alerted when I do put a video up. I don't put many video up, so you won't get alerted too often because I'm retired. I'm back into this hobby for the fun of it. And like I said, I use my YouTube channel because I like to share with everybody. YouTube could become a job, and I don't want another job. I don't want it to be a job. I make no money off of it. I don't want to make any money off of it. I do it for the fun. Okay. I also have a website. It's skipsmessyworkbench.com, where I keep a photo journal of all of my builds and all of my builds. I'm back into the hobby. This is like my 4th build since I'm back into the hobby. But I keep a photo journal on my website that each photo has text descriptions and of what I was doing and stuff like that. So if you don't if you want to read, you can go out there and look at my website. Again, it's skipsmessyworkbench.com, and it's perfectly free. Everything's free. And like I always say, if you've got insomnia, sit and listen to me or go to my website. Anyway, gentlemen, or ladies and gentlemen, I thank you so much for putting up with me and for watching this stuff. And I'll see you in the next video. Thanks again.